Are you somebody? Do you let comments get to you, or are you somebody with quite?
No, because I went through so I was on MySpace, so I've kind of been through it, man. Of like, I'm 44, and I kind of. Yeah, I'm 44. I've been doing stand-up for 25 years, so I kind of know what I'm doing, and also it's that thing of, I get validated every night. So it's like, if they laugh, it works. If they don't, it doesn't.
There's always someone out there that's not going to like what you're doing.
Can we talk a bit about your new special, Russ?
Yeah, man, let's do it.
So it's Russell Howard's live at the London Palladium.
That's correct. Yeah.
First of all, why the London Palladium? Is it iconic?
Because it's a really great room. So it's not kind of the biggest room in the world. It's like 2,000, but it's like 3 tiers, a lot of history. It sounds beautiful, and it's one of those like little big rooms.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? It's like whenever you do arenas, they're great, but the laughter is just a bit too big for watching at home. So there's something about the of a 2,000, it's enough.
Right.
It just feels kind of nice and comfy. So yeah, we did it there, and it was great, really good fun. And it's sort of like the cool thing about putting a special together. It's like you sort of amass, I guess, like 2 hours of stuff over the tour, and then you kind of whittle it down to the best hour. That's what's fun about it for me, and it's just kind of like getting rid of bits and just tightening it all up so that everything is like da 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 da.
Well, that's kind of answered my next question, to be honest, because I looked on your website and it says that you did 237 gigs, is that right?
Yeah.
In 141 cities in 30 countries, which is insane. And the only kind of experience we have of doing live stuff is when we did the podcast live. And we just did 40 shows.
Yeah, but that's enough.
And we absolutely loved it, but I could see because we felt ourselves getting better at the end of each at the end of each one. But I could see, because we're doing the same thing every night, it didn't get boring to us. But I'm fascinated to see your mindset of doing that many shows, 237. But are you constantly, like you just said there, you constantly adapting and changing each night? Yeah,
well, it always fascinates me. I've seen sort of big comics in foreign countries go on and just do the same show that they would do in the UK, which I find, like, whenever you see a comic walk on and go, so the show's about, and you're like, wow, straight into the show, no kind of like local stuff. So I just like being able to wander about. Right. And then you sort of naturally pick stuff up. So, for example, like the reason why I was mentioning the A11 before this show started is because whenever you drive up or down, or mostly up the A11 towards Norwich, a fine city, there is a lot of roadkill on the side. There's just an astronomical amount of dead badgers and deers and lights. And my theory is that people from Norwich deliberately kill animals and put them alongside the A11 to try and make Londoners turn around, so that you'll never go to Norwich and realise, actually, all these rumours that a lot of people from Norwich go, oh, it's a shit, oh, don't come here, oh. It's an absolute lie, because it's a brilliant place. And then you get there and you fuckers are deliberately trying to keep people from London out by putting dead animals all over the roads. That's my theory.
I like the thought that someone sees roadkill and goes, nah, not for me, turns around.
But the point I'm making, it's sort of like, so you do a gig in Norwich and that's, even just walking on stage and chatting about, there's a lot of dead animals on the way. The very fact that you have a job where you're able to do that without that kind of, I better get to the show, and it's like a monologue. So I've got loads of stuff, but it should always be in a sort of permanent state of becoming. If you've got and there's nothing quite like, and also I've been doing stand-up for 25 years.
Right.
So it's exciting to put yourself and make a mistake and, open with something new, and then you'll always figure out a way to make it funny because you've done it for so long. And also, if you don't make it funny, it'll be funny next time, because you'll be like, fuck man, I just done a gig in Finland and it was, you know what I mean? And it's sort of just keeping the third eye open, really.
But is it hard to do that sort of regional? So like, I assume you've played in Norwich hundreds of however many times, but
I've seen the Puppet Man many a time.
Yeah,
totally.
So you know the sort of cultural points of Norwich and stuff like that.
But I also know the underbelly. So I remember going there, doing a gig at the Playhouse, and it was Black History Month, and there was an exhibit at the Norwich Cathedral, and there was all these kind of books about Rosa Parks and Nelson Mandela. It was really interesting wandering around. And there was one store that was selling those, those kind of like brain things. It's got like
the head massage.
Oh yeah,
they're disgusting.
Yeah, but there was just one guy in the middle of this Black History Month going, "Yeah, I'm selling these. Do you want?" I was just like, this guy was selling like an orgasm for your head in a month, and he was shifting units. But to me, it was like I remember that night going, "How did he get that stall?" Do you know what I mean? Of like. It's so weird. It's just like, it's disability month. I've got some fleshlights. I'm trying to, it just felt weird. But the point I'm making is like, whatever you see or think that day, you're sort of lucky enough to have, slightly different with you guys because you've got a show and you're with each other and you sort of have to hit certain points and you don't want to put each other off. But I bet even within that, there's room to play. But if it's just you on your own, you can kind of do whatever you want.
Yeah. It's kind of what we did. We usually, when we do like our main shows, without a guest, we have two other hosts and we do an all caught up at the start for 20 minutes. So we would get to the cities a day early or the morning of and walk around and try and pick out those little bits and bobs.
Well, that's what makes it special. Yeah. And it's kind of, I don't know, I love it. And the cool thing about doing this special is that it's like I did my last two on Netflix, and this is there's a company called Drift, and it's like a live stream. So basically, you go on my website, which is russell/howard.co.uk, and it will be on 8 o'clock on Wednesday, but then it's also on 8 o'clock in New York and 8 o'clock in Australia and Europe. So it's all kind of like, choreographed.
So this episode comes out Thursday morning.
So it was last night.
Last night
was the kind of premiere, but you can still go to the website and
so how does that work again? So you go on the website.
Go on the website and download it. And that's it. And then you can have it and it's yours.
What's the process behind doing that as opposed to putting it on a streamer?
Because you don't have anyone telling you what you can do, and things slightly get lost inside Netflix. Do you know what I mean? I think so. It was just kind of a way of owning it and being in charge of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it feels like the world has changed a lot. Like I remember doing like DVDs.
Yeah.
So that just shows you how technology's gone. So now we're kind of in this world where, I sort of made it myself, and I wanted to make the show so people could see it.
What's the concept of the show? Last time you came on Happy Hour, you just released
Lubricant.
Yeah.
And that was a Netflix show, wasn't it?
That was a Netflix show. Yeah. That did really well. I don't actually know how you gauge. Well, that's the question itself. How do you gauge the public's opinion of something? Because when you put it on Netflix and perhaps even your own website, like there's no sort of user face there. There's no public comments and stuff.
Yeah,
like that?
I guess it's just I just go off like reviews and then ticket sales really. So it's kind of that thing of if you're shifting tickets and the reviews are all right, it's kind of that. I think. Yeah, but I don't really. I'm sort of lucky that I don't have that. The comments aren't my metric, thank Christ. Otherwise, it would just be. I imagine it's the same as anything. It's probably 90% positive, 10% awful, and you only look at the 10%, and then you sort of walk around in this
Flip
kind
the
of
numbers for us.
No, but do you know what I mean? Yeah. But it's like you then end up. Like I did this interview with Greta Thunberg, bit of fun. And it turns out a lot of people love her, a lot of people not so keen, and then it's a real window into the mania of the internet. And it's sort of, there's a comedian called Bo Burnham who was talking about this.
It's one of our favourites.
But what's interesting about him is that he was doing an interview and with a bunch of comics who'd kind of come up the traditional way that I came up through comedy clubs. And, I remember being 18 years old, looking 12. And, some gigs were amazing. Some gigs you get shit and you're 18 and and you get, the other comedians kind of rough you up. And that's very much the way of it. And you kind of come up through that system. And he made a really good point, which is like coming up through YouTube is brutal because your metric for success is comments. And if you're like 16 or 14, as he was, just having the internet tell you that you look weird or that you're gay or that you're shit or whatever it is that he was getting, that he was sort of saying, like, I will see your heckles and I would raise you the heckles you get from YouTube. So it was really, it made me think of it in a different way.
Yeah. I used to have to like hide certain keywords on my YouTube channel when I first started making comments, because the people would be so fucking brutal.
Yeah.
And it's like we find now that like we have a Reddit forum where people can analyze each episode, and I find it such a weird kind of world, because I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with the Reddit, and they know this. I talk about them a lot on here, and they'll put posts about me, and we'll go back and forth.
And they're probably talking about this moment
There
right
will
now.
be. There will be. There'll be an episode discussion thread. People will be commenting on it. But what I don't understand...
Why is he attacking the A11?
Respect from A12.
Exactly.
But what I don't understand is when it's just, especially when it's just me and the boys on a Monday, they critique it like it's like this is high art, or like this is a panel show with 30-man crew or whatever. Like, just me and my mates talking. I don't understand it sometimes.
Yeah, it's funny though, isn't it? But then it's probably because, I don't know, the world goes deep. There's people that like critique podcasts, and that's their YouTube channel, and they kind of have stuff about various, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you sort of like, this is what I think about these 3 comedians in England, and you're like, you're an Australian man and you're doing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just,
are you somebody, do you let comments get to you, or are you somebody with quite...
No, because I went through so I was on MySpace, so I've kind of been through it, man, of like, I'm 44, and I kind of, I'm 44. I've been doing stand-up for 25 years. So I kind of know what I'm doing. And also it's that thing of, I get validated every night. So it's like, if they laugh, it works. If they don't, it doesn't. And, it's like you were saying, John Cairns, I love. Some people don't like John Cairns. That's fine. I remember seeing a comment where somebody was saying, in his pomp, at his most majestic, someone was like, Wayne Rooney's shit, and you're like, well, it just is. but it was sort of like, if someone is, and this is a time where he was, better than Ronaldo.
Yeah.
It's like, well, if you think that Wayne Rooney's shit,
and
you're willing to write that, then the world is insane.
There's always someone out there that's not going to like what you're doing.
But then also, I think it's also about surrounding yourself with kind of like-minded people, and realizing that everyone is in a state of flux, and everyone's kind of, everyone, not the challenges that they're under and what we're all going through. And it's good hanging out with mates where you can sort of, like, I can talk to comics, your pals, but you can probably speak to other podcasters or whatever and go, oh, do you have this? Is this a thing? And it's through that, I think, you get that sense. I imagine doctors have it, and nurses and firemen and soldiers or whatever it is, but those, fuck me, as if we're the same as any of those. But the point is, it's that where people that there's nothing quite like in terms of comments bothering you, being able to, I can talk to my friend Al, who's a comedian in Sweden, and sort of say, oh man, do you ever feel like this? And, you can just have a chat.
Russ, how come you didn't give your latest tour like a name, like a jazz
Because
name?
I couldn't come up with one. Like, I wanted to call it, I had Gegengest, which was from the Klopp style of football, Gegen pressing. And the way that I do stand-up is quite kind of intense. So I like the idea of it, but, my wife was like, that's fucking mental, doesn't mean anything. And then I was going to call it Lucky Jizz, which makes sense if you watch the special. So it's actually quite a sweet bit of it. But if you haven't seen the special and you're calling it Lucky Jizz, that's going to turn some people off. So I kind of like, a bit like Bill Burr does. It was just like, I'll just call it live, that'll do. And I can be whatever I want. And also there's no constraint then. If you're doing a show and you're like, it's called like, Platypus, and you've got to do your hour about platypi or whatever they are. And it's, I just wouldn't want to be restricted. So I always used to have, like, when I was younger, I'd have titles like Skylarking, Wandering, Adventures, Recalibrate, Respite, all these kind of things.
To keep it open. Yeah,
so it just felt like it was, it could be whatever it wanted to be. But I think what the show is about is sort of, in a time of like hyper polarization, just trying to find like a middle ground. So there's loads of jokes, but the gist of it is just kind of like people getting upset about inconsequential things when fundamentally everyone wants to be happy and everyone's going to die. So crack on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
With lots of jokes.